Hi, it's ready here, and today I'm finally going to make the video about how I'm making my sourdough bread. Making sourdough bread is quite a process, but once you get into a schedule of making it, it's actually not complicated at all. There are, of course, a lot of different ways of making sourdough bread, and I have the recipe from my mom that she got it from her mom, and so on and so on. So I'm from Estonia, and in Estonia, sourdough bread is the food. If Estonians speak about food, they are speaking about sourdough bread. This is like a very, very important thing for us, and every family has their own recipe how they have been making it for thousands or at least hundreds of years. So this is what I'm going to share with you today, is my family recipe. I'm not saying it's more right than some other recipes that you see anywhere in the books or in internet or that somebody shows to you, but this is our family's recipe. So let's get started. This is my sourdough. I'm not going to show you in this video how to start a sourdough starter. There are many different ways of doing that as well. And if there is a lot of demand, I might make another video about this. But right now, this video is how to make a sourdough bread once you already have a sourdough. And my sourdough bread, for us Estonians, the sourdough bread is the rye flour bread. So we are basically using just rye flour and water for our bread. And my sourdough starter as well is basically just rye flour and water, which is fermented in a certain way. But I started it from the scratch myself, and I just mixed water and rye flour. So the first step is to put the sourdough. This is a lot of sourdough, by the way. Usually I don't keep that much. But this week I have a lot of sourdough because a friend asked me for a starter and I left it, and then he didn't pick it up until now. So I'm just going to use it and take a new starter out. So the first step is that I will scoop all the sourdough starter into the bowl. And then I will rinse out the bowl with some extra water. And then I'm going to make two breads. So the amount of the dough that I'm making is for two square breads, for two bread forms. Because if I'm already heating up the oven to make bread, I usually make two, and my family usually consumes exactly two breads in a week. Sometimes I have to make it more than once a week as well. So, and now to the sourdough starter, I add 1 liter of pure water, filtered water. If you have a good water in the tap, of course you can use this. Drinking water. So I'm using 1 liter of drinking water. And then I will add rye flour. And I add to the bowl of water and sourdough some rye flour. And I just mix it. And I usually do this step, as I told you, the making of sourdough bread, it goes in steps. So usually I start it in the evening. So today, right now, is like 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm mixing my sourdough. So tomorrow I can bake my bread. So this, as I said before, it's not complicated to make a sourdough bread, but it requires some planning. You really have to think a little bit ahead how when you will do it, because you need to prepare the sourdough mixture in the evening. I mean, there are different ways. You can also do it in the morning probably, but I never did. For me, this is the schedule, how I always do it, how my mother told me to do it. So I'm just a good girl and I do what my mom told me. So I'm doing it always in the evening, and then I can leave it overnight. And tomorrow morning I will mix it, and tomorrow around noon or afternoon time I can bake my bread. So it's basically, it takes 2 days to make the bread, but as you will see, it's not like a lot of work, but you just need to plan it into your daily schedule. So now I have mixed into this mixture like half a kilo, 500 grams, half a kilo of rye flour. And this is just pure rye flour. It can be, rye flour is usually always whole grain flour, I think. I never saw not whole grain rye flour. Probably it exists. So, as my mother said, we don't have recipes with quantities in Estonia, you know, like in the traditional way. The mixture has to be the thickness of sour cream. If you guys know what sour cream is something like Greek yogurt. So it has to be more or less the consistency of Greek yogurt. But if you put around a liter of water and half a kilo of flour, you will get the right consistency. So this is how it looks like right now. And now I will just cover it with a towel and leave it to stay in a relatively warm place. If you have a warm place in your house, I live in a warm climate anyway, so it's never cold here at night. So I just leave it in my kitchen counter, covered with a kitchen towel. And tomorrow I will show you the next steps of making a sourdough bread. So hi, I'm back. This is the next morning and I will continue making my bread. So my bread has been sitting here in my kitchen under the kitchen towel for more than 12 hours. And now we will see what has happened to it. Ta-da-da-da. Wow. See? As you can see, there are a lot of bubbles forming. Even the towel got a little bit dirty with it. So look, those are the bubbles. It's very bubbly and it has risen in size. And that's exactly what we want, because this is how the sourdough is doing its job. So now the first very important step, very important to not forget, is to take out the next sourdough for the next bread. If you forget this step, you have to start from the beginning with making your new sourdough again. So I always take like 2 spoonfuls. Would be enough to have 1 probably, but to be on the safe side, I always take 2 spoonfuls. And today, because a friend has asked me for a sourdough, I will take even more. I will take 4. So it's pretty liquid. And now I will mix a little bit rye flour into the sourdough to have some fresh flour for the sourdough to eat while it's in the fridge. So I just put some new rye flour and mix it in here. It's not much, just maybe like a couple of spoonfuls. Put a little more. Oops, that was a little too much. Doesn't matter. It's not really a science. I mean, it is a science, but it's not so exact. So I'm never measuring. When I make bread, I never actually measure the quantities. So this is a nice new sourdough. I will put this aside and I will leave this in my fridge until next time I'm gonna make bread. I'm gonna take it out. Some people say that you need to feed your sourdough between making breads. I never do that, I have to admit. But I usually make bread once a week. But sometimes I didn't make when I was sick or something. I made it again after 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Nothing has happened to my sourdough so far. I guess there are so many beneficial bacteria that the bad ones just don't get so easily into it. I don't know. At least for me, I never do anything. I just put it in the container. It shouldn't be airtight container. It's I took the plastic thing away from here, so it's not really airtight. It's just a closed container, and I just leave it in my fridge until the next time. And now I continue making my bread. So the first thing I do, I add some salt, like maybe 2 teaspoons of salt. And I like to add a little bit of sugar. If you are absolutely against sugar, you can just skip it. But I like to add some brown sugar, or the best is actually to have some brown syrup. In Estonia we have a special syrup for bread, it makes it really nice. So I put like 2-3 teaspoons of sugar. I mix it in. And then I'm going to add seeds. This is an optional step, you don't have to add seeds to your bread. The bread is totally fine just like this, without the seeds. But I just love seeds. For me, seeds make the bread extra tasty, so I will just add some seeds. Today I have some sesame seeds. You can add the seeds whatever you like. I had some sesame and I have some line seeds, or flax seeds they are called in English, I guess. And sunflower seeds, that are my absolutely favorite. I always like to add sunflower seeds to my bread. I'll put something. I never measure, I just put as I feel. It's also really nice to add, if you have pumpkin seeds, to add some pumpkin seeds, or hemp seeds are really nice in bread as well. They are loaded with proteins. And so I just mix in the seeds, and now the dough is still too liquid to put it in the form, so I will add some rye flour to it. And how much rye flour I add, I don't know. I just do it according to my feeling usually. But let's see how much I feel today. So this is a ½ kilo package. Right now I have put like half of it, like 250 grams. And it's still a little bit too liquid. So I will add a little more. I could actually, let's see. So now it's almost full the package. So now it's maybe 350 grams of flour that I added. So the consistency of the dough has to be, there are again different ways. Some people like it more liquid, some people like it more how to say? What is the opposite of liquid in English? Like more dry or more strong. It's really the question of taste. So, but I like it like this, that it's kind of sticky, but not really like, you cannot really form from it still. It's not like bread dough, it's more liquid. I think I will put all of it. So actually, just to make it easy for you to remember, I put the whole package, so another ½ kilo package. So yesterday we used ½ kilo to make it stay overnight, to make our sour cream thickness mixture, and now today I added another ½ kilo of flour. That's pretty much perfect. I really like it like this. Yeah, that's a very good consistency. So, and now I just have to mix it really well, and this dough is super sticky. It's like it's the thickness that is very sticky, and dry flour by itself is just super sticky. So that looks pretty good. So I will try to show it to you closer. So this is the thickness that we want. It's just super sticky dough. It falls like this, but it's not really formable. And now I have to put it into the bread forms. I have prepared my two bread forms. As I told you yesterday, I'm making two breads. So I have two bread forms here, and I'm gonna spoon all this mixture into the forms. And that's a sticky thing. It's really sticky. So you can't be very scientific about it. You just spoon it in. Now with my wet hands, I'm gonna smooth out the surface of the bread. So, and now with my wet fingers, I have poked some holes into the bread. Why we do it? Because that shows me when the bread is ready for baking. So now I will just cover this again with a clean kitchen towel, and I will wait maybe 3, 4, 5 hours until all the holes are full. When I don't see more holes, then it means that the bread is ready for baking. So usually I make this step, I usually start in the evening, as I told you yesterday, to prepare the mixture. Next morning I do this, put it in the forms, and around noon or afternoon I will bake the bread. So I will show you when the bread is ready for baking. So it's around 4 or 5 hours later, and let's see if my bread is ready for baking. Oh yes, that looks pretty good. As you can see, the holes have almost filled up here. Those were deep holes. Now they are barely visible. That means the bread is ready for baking. So let's have a look how the bread is doing. It's been almost 50 minutes. Oh, it smells amazing. I have to tell you, I'm really sad that the technology haven't developed so far that I could transfer the smell. But it smells absolutely amazing, and it's really time to take this bread out of the oven. And now it's very important to wrap the bread inside a towel and put a few more towels on top so that the bread would cool down slowly. If you live in a colder climate, you might even want to put a bathroom towel on top so that it really doesn't cool down too fast, because that makes the bread to stay nice and moist inside and not too sticky. So hello, good morning. This is the next morning, and my bread is finally ready for eating. I know it sounds like a lot of endeavor for a bread, but I promise you it's absolutely worth it, because there is nothing like freshly baked sourdough bread. It's something so special, and it's so healthy, it's so good for you, and it's absolutely worth the endeavor to make it. And another thing I would like to remind you, it's really important to let the bread cool down slowly, that you don't, I know it's absolutely hard to not immediately eat it because it smells so good when it comes fresh from the oven, but it's really worth to wait a little bit, because if you cut it too early, it will stay a little bit like a doughy inside. It might happen and you will be very disappointed. You will think that your bread didn't work out properly, but actually the trick is really to let it cool down slowly, because the baking process actually still happens while it's cooling down. So you will get much better bread if you have a few more hours of patience. So I hope you like this video. I hope you will get inspired to make your own bread, because it's absolutely amazing to bake your own sourdough bread. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I see you in the next